I can't. This is an expression that is vilified in our minds beginning at a young age. Every time a young child announces this decision, they are corrected. The first adult that hears it asks them whether or not they have even tried. Generally, this confrontation will result in the child giving their task another attempt until their attention span moves on to something else. The adult will see this and chuckle to themselves with knowledge that this is just a child who is yet to learn the art and virtue of perseverance. By the time this child comes of age, however, they will have been told by adults more times than they could count that there is no such thing as can't. It is interesting, then, to think about how many adults seem to proclaim this expression in their lives. Is it because, like many things that adults tell children, they are simply telling the child a general rule that the child must follow, but can be broken once one is grown? Or is it because these adults are simply repeating what they were told as children without thoroughly examining what the phrase, "I can't," truly suggests? If you confronted an adult that claims they can't do something with the same question about whether or not they have tried, the answer will almost always be yes. Adults have learned enough to know that it is unreasonable to say they can't until they have at least tried once. Therefore, the real question that we should be asking in response is, have you tried everything? Have you exhausted every possible option, scenario, combination, tool, and approach? I do not simply refer to the ones that you knew of at the time you decided to undertake your task. I mean, have you also researched possibilities that you hadn't known about? Have you determined whether or not there is another person out there that has performed the exact same task you are attempting, or at least something similar? Have you exhausted this research? Have you read every book, blog, journal, magazine, bathroom stall, and website? If the answer to any of these questions is no, then go back and try again, because you don't truly know if you can do something until you have tried absolutely everything. The fact of the matter is that rarely, if ever, is the answer to all these questions yes. Therefore, what is it that people actually mean when they say, "I can't"? A more accurate but more verbose way of saying it would be, I don't care about or want enough this task or the resultant benefits of it in order to do all that is necessary to achieve it. I was told countless numbers of times by people during my month of marathons that they couldn't run one marathon, let alone 31 straight. Every now and then, when I had time, I would discuss what they'd said. We would jointly conclude that if something they cared about and depended on them doing so, it would be possible. The most common example I used was, if someone had a gun to your child's head, do you think you could do it then? Therefore, the phrase, "I can't," denotes a lack of investment as opposed to a lack of potential or ability. I do not mean to say that every person I had this conversation with should have had the motivation to run marathons. It was something that I had decided to do, not them. I merely wanted to express to them what I am expressing here. Given the right purpose and enough time, you can.
If you took money off the table, if you didn't give a shit what anybody else thought, what's the thing you would love to be doing with your life? Seriously. Do you dream of being a professional photographer? Do you want to open your own restaurant? You always thought about traveling the world and entertaining kids with your juggling skills. I don't know, it's your life. You get to choose what you want to do. Be honest with yourself. What is it that you would want to do with your life if you didn't have to pay the bills doing it? Another thing you can ask yourself, who do you find yourself sort of envious of? You know, like you look at their life and you just think, gosh, how awesome that they get to do that. Well, once you have that answer for yourself, you've gotten really honest, you've pushed the bullshit aside, and you've really asked it for yourself and answered the question honestly, all you got to do is explore it. That's it. Just find one thing that you can do to enrich and expand your knowledge about it. Find one course online, Google the topic, stalk people that are pursuing this line of work. That's how you start to do it, one step at a time. So start with answering the question, what do you really want, with a massive dose of honesty. Google the topic and find one thing that you can do, just one. Push yourself and start to explore it. If you were to wake up and do that every single day, spend 10 minutes a day, you would be startled, astonished by what your life looks like in a matter of a year or two.
Focus on things that are AI driven, artificial intelligence driven, whether it's machine learning, deep learning neural networks, medical applications. But within AI is a buzzword that everybody's using right now. You know, and to that point, you know, we as old guys, we go back and it's like 1995, we talk about the internet. And I would say to people back in 1995, look, if you don't understand the internet, you're not gonna be able to do business. And now that's just blocking and tackling, it seems obvious. Back then it wasn't, right? I could even take you further back to my first company. You know, what we did, it was a company called Micro Solutions, and we did local area networks and wide area networks. And I used to walk into companies and say, you're gonna have to hook these PCs together at some point. That'll make you more productive, more effective, you know, give you a competitive advantage. And people were like, nah, I'll just carry this floppy from this PC to that PC. Yeah, okay. But today, we're at the same type of inflection point with artificial intelligence. You don't have to be an expert and be able to put together your own neural network. You know, you don't have to know what weights and biases are. But you have to have more than just a cursory understanding. Just like you have to know the difference between, you know, different types of websites, and you have to understand e-commerce if you're in e-commerce. You have to have a cursory understanding of how apps work. You're gonna have to have at least, if not more, cursory understanding of artificial intelligence, because it will change everything we do. And if the internet was 10x in terms of change to business, artificial intelligence will be 100x or more. If you go to my house, right next to my bed, there's a book, Machine Learning for Dummies. If you go into my bathroom, there's deep neural networks for dummies, right? If you go in, there's a something for dummies in every room of my house. You know, it can go two ways, I know, but I'm just telling you, put the time. I mean, I've taken, you know, I can't even tell you how many hours now I spend every week, if not daily, working. Like, I'll go onto Amazon, AWS, and go through their machine learning tutorials. Don't think to yourself, I'm not technical enough, or I'm not gonna get this, or I don't get into this, or it's too much. Try it. Get as far as you can, because it's like doing a basic website and a little bit of HTML. Just having done that, you feel smarter and you feel a little bit more confident about this. You know, I don't want to be an alarmist, but I'm trying to scare the hell out of you because it's important.
The best players always follow the best players. They want to be in the top of the game because they are the ones, they are there. You know, you cannot rest or sleep because the other one can pass you. Of course we fight with everyone. With Neymar, with Messi, with Lewandowski, with Higuain, you know, with the top of the best players in the world. So, I mean, this is not fighting, but it's hard, it's healthy. You know, comparisons is healthy, and we fight, you know, to be the best. This is why it's my main point, it's my motivation, it's to be better than them, year after year.
Your social life today is all about what everybody else is doing. And I think the same is true with business success. Too many of us fall into the trap of defining our business success by what other people are doing. And so if you get just one thing from our conversation today, other than a gigantic kick in the ass from both Peter and me, I want you to understand that your highest value proposition is you. There is only one you. You have inner wisdom, you have a unique set of experiences, you have struggles, all of that is yours. And so yes, look around at what other people are doing and draw inspiration from it, but then pull it back in and check it against what your wisdom is telling you, what your definition of success is.
Malcolm X is a guy that I've read a lot about, and Malcolm X, my favorite quote of Malcolm X is that which you do not hate, you will eventually tolerate. And so there has to be this point in your life where what you want is so much greater than where you are. You're in such discomfort. In other words, the gap between what you're dreaming of, what you're destined to do, what you're capable of, you're aware of it compared to where you are. That tension between the two has a pull power to it, right? And so it's important all the time that wherever you are in life, that you're chasing that next version of you. There's this thing I'm just unbelievably passionate about. That is that I have this theory that I've told you this before, but that I think that at the end of your life, there's this place you come to. And I'm a Christian, so I think at the end of my life, I want the Lord to go, hey, well done, good and faithful servant. It doesn't matter what your faith is. You probably are aware there's history being made or an accounting. But I also think he's going to go, hey, by the way, this is who you could have been. I think he introduces you to the person you are capable of becoming. I really believe that at the end of your life, you're going to get introduced to the person you could have been, you were destined to be, that he made you to be. And so I'm chasing that dude. Every day I'm chasing that dude. That's the pull power for me. Every decision I make, the things I go through in my life, whether I'm going to go to the gym, whether I'm going to make a phone call, how I'm going to eat, does it get me closer to that guy? Because I think the best end of a life is well done by the Lord, and you're identical twins with that person. The bad end of a life would be, I meet this man I could have been, and we're total strangers. I mean, we're just complete opposites. I know nothing about this guy. There's no familiarity at all. And it means that I went down these easy roads. I took the comfortable road. The comfortable road will never lead you to the person you are destined to be, ever in your life. And so I don't know if you don't become obsessed with chasing that person, you end up never meeting him.
Every time I'm having trouble, every time I'm like, man, I don't think I can get to where I'm going, I just start looking at the top. I don't look at the bad facts. All I do is I start searching. Tell me about wealthy people, facts about wealthy people, anything. What are they doing? What are they buying? It just gets me out of my problem, right? It gets me to think bigger. You know, the first plane I bought this plane because I saw other wealthy people making moves. I'm not an irresponsible person, okay? Like, I have always been a very frugal person, but the frugal was hurting me, not helping me. Your network is your net worth. How rich you can get has something to do with who you're hanging with. How rich you can think has something to do with who you're hanging with, okay? How smart you are has something to do with your surroundings. If you hang out with dumb people, you're going to end up dumb. If you hang out with junkies, you're going to end up being a junkie. You hang out with criminals. I'm not talking about the people that go to jail. I'm talking about all the people at your office right now that cheat their employer and cheat themselves. You hang out with crims, you end up being a crim. If you want to build a network, number one thing, commit to building a network. A network by definition is not, if you're building a new network, is not the people you're already with. It's how do I add people to my network? So number one, you got to commit to building a network. Number two, who do you want in the network? Who is it? Most of you just go for more people like you have already in your network. I want new people, new characters, new personalities, new thinking, new ideas. The old adage, if you're the smartest person in the room, you in the wrong room. And number three, when you start building this network up and you start meeting the people, okay, number two is who do you want to meet? Who are you going to add to the network? You go 9,000 people in a room, you don't need to meet all 9,000. You need to meet maybe a list of 30 or 40 people. Who do you want to meet? Number three, when you meet them, focus on them, not on you. It shouldn't be, here's my card, I'm a chiropractor, this is what I do, can I give you an adjustment? Dude, it should be like, who are you? How can I help you? What are you doing? Where do you live, okay? What projects are you working on? How can I help you?
There's no obligation to work hard, smart, and long hours. Do whatever you want. At the end of the day, this is all about neurochemistry. It's about feeling good about who you are. It's about loving your life. It's about fulfillment. It's really just enjoying this one chance that you get at this life. And so when I say work hard, long, and smart, that doesn't feel right to you and you don't want to do that, by all means don't do that. My whole thing is, if you want to be the best, if you want to play in a world stage, if you want to outperform, if you want to get extraordinary results, the reality is, if you already know how to work hard and smart, then the last variable is long hours. Now, if you find that you're working so many hours that you click into the point where it's now working backwards, then you found the breaking point. So you'll notice I prioritize sleep. So I make sure I get all the sleep that I need. because I know to perform optimally, I have to do that. So if you've got some breaking point where it's not fun and you want to go take a break and you can tell that your learning is slowing down, cool, then you know that's the time to take a break. I'm never bashful about taking time off when I need it because I know how hard I play. I leave it all out on the field every day, and because of that, when I need a break, I'll take a break. Do you, like, whatever feels right, whatever feels amazing, that's what you should be doing. So my work hard, work smart, work long hours is all about that thing that I value. Not everybody has to value that. You're going to, as of right now, this moment, you're going to focus entirely on one thing. Getting so good you cannot be ignored. Now, what do I mean by that? Getting so good that you deliver results for yourself, deliver results for other people. I would just tell you, every business owner on the planet is looking for people that can help them grow their business. That's it. They care about one thing and one thing only. Can you deliver results? So the good news here is you can always count on humans to be selfish. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, they're passionate about the things that they're passionate about. They're trying to accomplish the things they're trying to accomplish. And if you can show how you can help with that, people are gonna want you no matter what. I don't give a shit if you have a college education. Like, that is so irrelevant to me. A college education merely tells me that you've been formally trained. It doesn't tell me if you're actually good. Now, on a resume it can be very powerful because I'll look at that in a shorthand. I'll say, oh, like, they probably are ahead of somebody that doesn't have those things. But if you're out in the real world getting results, I'm all for that. And let me tell you how fast you can convey that with something. Like, if I'm like right now, hey everybody, by the way, PS, if you're a director of marketing, we want to hear from you, especially if you understand content marketing. So I think most people in this community know that Jared has moved up to San Jose. I don't do remote employees. He's chasing his own thing. That guy was amazing. And I'm super heartbroken that he left. But now we're looking for somebody to replace him with. And what I look for is I look for people that have done shit. I actually don't even look at their college education. I don't even scan that far down in the resume. I just want to know, what are you doing? What have you accomplished? And like, can you put together a what is the word I'm having a stroke. Comprehensive isn't the word, but I'm gonna stick with it. Cohesive, there we go. Can you put together a cohesive, coherent resume, which you'd be shocked how few people actually can. So put that together, maybe a super brief cover letter, maybe you hit the person up on social, whatever. Anyway, it is really easy. If you're actually good, it's really easy to convince other people that you're actually good. So focus all your time and energy on actually getting good.
If you're in politics, the media, the tech industry, working as an entrepreneur or a teacher or a construction worker or a caregiver, you know the problems we are all facing. And I urge each one of you to ask yourselves, what do we do now? That's a big question. What is it in your life that you think you cannot accomplish? Or what is it that people have said that you cannot do? Wouldn't it feel really good to prove them all wrong?
Here's what I've learned, though. I think the people that have made those mistakes and that have went through those crazy changes within this business are people that have put themselves in a position to not grow. I think you go through it at one point, but then you go, oh, this is bad. I messed up one time. I don't want to mess up again. I went through my period. I got my DUI. I was out. I was drunk every night. I was chasing different women every day of the week. I did that. I saw that it got me nowhere, and then I got focused, and I saw where getting focused got me. So why go backwards? You're supposed to progress. You're not supposed to digress. The man that I am today is a much more developed man than I was yesterday, and I just don't see myself wanting to ever lose that. I want to continue to be a dope example for where people can look at it and go, wow, look where he came from, look at where he is now. I got too many goals.
From the time I was 7 years old, every Saturday I would go for 4 hours of acting class every Saturday.
Whoa.
And I loved it. I just loved it. To the point where all the kids graduated and went on to this other stuff, and I started doing adult acting classes, and then I was in the commercial classes, and then I loved like the hair and makeup classes and just everything. I just couldn't get enough.
I mean, doing the same thing, I mean, just being known for like one thing your whole life, that's sad, you know? We all have so many interests, I'm sure, and so, you know, to get to make jobs of them all, or jobs, if you could call it that, but to make businesses out of them all, and see them on a daily basis in your light and how you visualize them is really cool and fun, and we can all do it. We all can do it. So many people are so afraid to try something because they're like, oh, like, I can't leave my job because I have to pay bills, or, it's like, well, start small then. But don't say you can't, because as many times as you say you can, you're not going to. If you don't think you can, you won't. Thoughts become things.
Most scared I've ever been was being asked to sing at the MCG for the Bledisloe Cup. And I'm a big rugby fan. I was brought up in Sydney, so rugby was my sport. And they said, come and sing. And I actually had a panic attack the night before, because all the people, I was at a dinner party and people were telling stories of how careers had finished by singing a dud version.
Yeah, Meatloaf doesn't tour anymore, I'll tell you that. That does not happen.
And that someone got up and sang it a cappella, got off key, got booed, literally singing the anthem. And I have never been more scared than that moment. And what happened to me in film was it was random. It would appear sometimes, and that was something I'd never encountered. I understand if you're scared of heights, you're always scared of heights, but some days I'd be fine, and then some days I would just get nervous and then it'd get in my head. So I don't know if you guys know Anthony Robbins, the
motivational dude, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he does motivate. He's not really a motivational guy, actually. He's really quite brilliant in breaking down how we think, the patterns of behaviour we have. And so I met him, we were mates. I never went to one of his workshops. We were just friends. And I rang him, I said, mate, I want to come to you professionally. I need to ask you a question. And he said to me, what the biggest mistake people make with fear is saying, oh, I'm scared, I hate this, get it out, I don't want you near my life, this is not helping me. And you get obviously really wound up. So he said, you've got to remember the times where you feel confident, name the character that feels scared, and as you're walking on a set, realise that the fear is good, that it got you where you are, that it makes you work. The fear sometimes actually goes, oh, I better work really hard on this film. Like when I was with Les Mis, I was really nervous. So he said, that fear, embrace it, work really hard. And then on that day when you walk on set, Charles, thanks, but I don't need you right now. And then be frank, as in a total arsehole. So we're gonna don't care about him, no. And that somehow just switched to me, and when occasionally I would get nervous.
I do think that and it's not just in sport, but with other things, I do believe that the more you repeat certain things, whether it is writing, working on your, whether it's cursive letters or whatever it is, like when you work on something and you keep doing it over and over, it's inevitable that it will get better. And by that, you're creating this feeling of repetition, which leads to discipline. Like, you can do it over and over again. And that's one of my first coaches, Robert Lansdorp, who I speak about in the book. Like, that was his philosophy, I would take a lesson from him, and his philosophy was just hitting and grinding, and it wasn't about patterns or anything, which, I could get from somebody else. But what he gave me is that feeling that I could hit the ball from any part of the court and feel like I could do it with closed eyes and make it and know exactly where it's going. And for me, it started at a young age. Like, my mom would make me memorize this Russian literature that I did not appreciate at 5 years old. It was very difficult, and I didn't know what it meant, but I would do it, and I would memorize it, and then I would feel that I accomplished something. I don't know why, but the repetition led me to this discipline, and I think that helps with mindset.
I believe that passion is another word for energy. That's it.
What do you have energy for?
What energizes you? And that we naturally have a tremendous amount of body wisdom about that. And that every one of us has an internal fuel tank that is either empty or full. And if you're empty, you feel depleted. If you're full, you feel energized. And so if you simply are in any situation, I mean any situation, and you pay attention within 5 seconds to, does this person energize me? Do they deplete me? Where are they in the scale? You just gain some tremendous wisdom. And the simple way to start to figure out who you are and what you want is start aligning yourself with more things that energize you. So situationally, if you're lying in bed and the snooze alarm goes, or the alarm goes off, and you feel depleted, and you start reaching for the snooze button, that's a really big sign that you need to get out of bed. Now, being depleted versus energized has nothing to do with whether or not things are hard or easy. It has to do with what naturally actually either expands you or shrinks you. And so if you look at your client list and measure it depleted versus energized, what shrinks versus expands me, you have the actual map. And when you start to find the courage to make decisions that energize you and that expand you, whether they're scary as shit or not, that's when everything changes. And so that's how I actually make business decisions. I don't even, like, the money conversation comes second. It's, does this deplete or energize me? And if it depletes me, how do you move it in that direction? Or how do I say no? If it energizes me, how do I do more? Because if you are energized or expanded by something, you will do it for no money, you will do it happily, and you will suddenly wake up and say, oh my gosh, like I'm pursuing my passion. How did that happen?
Why do you prioritize sleep so highly? Just curious of what makes you so committed to that and the science behind it. Thank you for all you do. I find that I'm slower when I'm fatigued. So I find myself drifting. I have more symptoms of what we'll call ADD, so that my attention just drifts. And then I find I'll read a sentence or whatever and be like, God, I have to reread the sentence like 10 times. So that was just going, whoa. I'm not as efficient as I could be. And then the other is, I find it a unique form of misery. There is an additional ring of hell that is saved just for people who are fatigued. I hate it so much. So it's misery, and I don't understand people that live a life that is miserable. I just don't get it. And then on top of that, I think you actually accomplish less if you're fatigued. So you're putting more hours, but you're actually getting less done per hour. So if being fatigued puts you at like 0.6 of what your output could be, and then being just like incredibly well rested, prioritizing that puts you at, it's, I guess mathematically I should be saying just 1, then like you have to make up 40% of the number of hours in waking up early just to break even, and then you put misery on top of that. So that's my N of 1 experience, is that I am so deadly efficient when I'm rested that I just get more done. So comparing those two side by side, I actually accomplish more.
Who are you competing with? And whatever you do, you have to ask yourself, what's your edge? Right? What is the one thing that gives you a competitive edge? If you don't have an answer, you can't start that company. You're going to lose, right? I said it before, if you're trying to compete with me, you better know a whole lot more than I do about whatever business we're in, because otherwise I'm going to kick your ass, right? So you have to ask yourself, what is your competitive advantage? And with that competitive advantage, what's the best way for me to get customers who are willing to write me a check? One of my skill sets has always been, I've been able to walk into any type of business and understand their company, understand how they make money, understand how they compete. So I can walk into a shoe store, I can walk into a hospital or whatever and say, all right, here's my technology, here's how it gives you an advantage. And I try to do the same thing. On Shark Tank, you hear us say it all the time. What is your competitive advantage? Just saying it's my passion. Did you ever walk into 7-Eleven and say, wow, I'm shopping here at 7-Eleven because they're really passionate? No, right? And when you go and you think about your own buying decisions. What makes you decide to buy? Now you might want to support veteran-owned businesses. When it's a toss-up, yes, right? But at some point you have to grow beyond the community, and you have to be able to say, you can walk into any situation and know without any doubt in your mind, this is why you are the best product or service, and you are the best company to provide that product or service. Period, end of story. If you can't do that, you have to ask yourself, who is doing it? What are they doing that gives them that edge? What allows them to compete or help their customers better than you can? Right, because that's what it's all about. We all as consumers make buying decisions. And the people who are buying our stuff, product or service, use the same thought process for those buying decisions. So always put yourself in your potential customer's shoes. What is it that I have that makes it a no-brainer for them to buy from me? If it's, I'm nice, I'm passionate, you're in trouble, right? There's got to be something, because even if you can get some customers, how are you going to grow it? How are you going to sustain it? And what's going to keep the next person from coming in and doing the same thing? Because look, with success comes additional challenges. The more you succeed, the more people say, damn, okay, that's an opportunity. I think I can do that better. And so success isn't, look where I'm at. Success is go, 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 right? I mean, people say, wow, you've done this. I'm still going, right? To me, business is the ultimate sport. And there's nobody on the face of the earth that's more competitive than I am. I've said that to Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, you name it, right? Any athlete, any business person. It is the ultimate sport, and we're competing all the time. What is it that gives you an edge that allows you to compete? How do you sustain that? And how do you find more people that say yes to buying that? That is going to be the key to your business. And how do you sell it?
You will never know the answer unless if you ask. And that's what my father always taught me. He's like, you're never gonna know if you don't ask, so ask. And that's what I do. And that's kind of how I also I communicate with my team. We know we're a team, but also we know that we can talk very directly to each other, because that's how we set it up from the beginning. And whoever the boss is, you set the tone. You know, this is your arena. So however you set the tone is the way things are gonna go. So I always set the tone with kindness first, and then let's get ish done, baby.
Huge mistake that people make in marketing, that so many newsletters are me. What am I thinking? Like, come look at me. Hey, I'm at an event. Hey, buy my And whenever we sit and write the newsletter, we're thinking about what is the most valuable thing, because somebody has actually invited us into their inbox. And that is a critical question in marketing that most people are not asking themselves. They're spamming people, and they're doing only shit that's about them. And they're not thinking about, well, why does somebody subscribe to me? And when we write that newsletter, and it's why it is so incredibly successful and why people love it, we're always thinking about, does this interest or help or entertain the person that's reading it? And you know, anytime that it turns out to be too much of us talking about us, somebody on the team catches it, thank God. Because there's nothing more annoying than having somebody go on and on and on about all the cool shit they're doing versus thinking about what are some interesting hacks and links and cool things that we can introduce people to that might improve their work or their life.
Fixed mindset, somebody that has a fixed mindset believes that their talent and intelligence are fixed traits. That whatever you're born with, that's it. Those are gonna be, that's as good as you're ever gonna be. And so, hey, make the most of it. Somebody that has a growth mindset realizes that that's just your starting off point. And while we may not all be equal from where our starting off point is, the human animal is literally designed from the ground up to be able to adapt. And so it begins to be a question of how much are you willing to adapt? What price are you willing to pay to get great at something?
2010, you know, I kind of called myself, I'm a meathead. I just lift weights and put them down, right? I had kind of painted myself into that corner. Why not go run a marathon? So I trained for 6 weeks and went and ran a marathon. It was the most painful thing I ever did, but I realized that was more the suffering and the pain. And the more pain I had, the more it put me into the zone of wanting to dominate. So it is a superpower. So I almost now go back and put myself into these challenges. Rock climbing, I was afraid of heights, took on a 6-week challenge, started climbing rocks. Wanted to fight a professional MMA fighter, so I hired him, trained for 6 weeks, went in the ring and got my ass kicked and choked out. But each time I did that, it gave me the sense of, I can get over any obstacle. And if I can get over getting choked out and punched and the pain of 26.2 miles in a marathon, or overcoming my fear of heights, surely I can build a business. Surely I can take some criticism online, right? But not enough people are willing to build that mental, emotional toughness. And the moment they do, they'll persevere.
This idea that you don't ever start. You stay trapped in your head. And if you feel paralyzed, if you've been spinning the same ideas over and over and over again, then you know what I'm talking about. You see, many of you are thinking way too big. You're attaching way too much pressure on the things that you're interested in. Until you start blogging about fashion, you won't even know if you like it. So thinking that you have a dream about doing it and thinking that you have this grand plan that you're going to do it full time, it is a complete and utter waste of your time to be dreaming that big. And let me tell you why. Because oftentimes, if you're the kind of person like Vicky that's getting trapped up here, the bigness of what you're thinking about is what's stopping you. What I want you to do if you're in Vicky's situation is I want you to stop dreaming and I want you to just start doing small things. I want you to go back to curiosity and less into crushing your big goals. The thing about life and business and success is that you have to be willing to start. And for people that procrastinate, starting is the hardest part. For people that worry, for people that think too big, starting is the hardest part. Folks that study procrastination talk about the fact that the only way to beat procrastination is to create what they call a starting ritual, which is a way to push yourself to get started. Because all the research shows that if we can push you to get started on something, you'll likely keep going.
But if you can find something you really love to do and can do it with great passion, I think that's fantastic. But I think being grateful probably is number one. If you've got a job, you got to be grateful. Say, this isn't the greatest job in the world, but even if it's a transitional job getting you where you want to go, you got to be grateful. You don't have to love your job or be passionate about your job, just passionate about staying steady, working hard, learning skills, doing this job so well that the next one will be even better, and taking such good care of this opportunity, another one will present itself. Sometimes the man says, well, if I had a good job, I'd really pour it on. But I've got this lousy job, so I just goof off. So that's not the attitude nor the philosophy. So if you'd really pour it on, this one, even though it may not be the best job in the world, if it furnishes a living, you have to be grateful. If it takes care of you and your family, you got to have gratitude. Not necessarily passion, but gratitude. But I think if you have an extreme desire to wish to be successful, so you can accomplish all you wish to accomplish, be as generous as you'd like to be as strong as you'd like to be in terms of financial strength, involved in entrepreneurial projects that you can't do without, let's say, sizable money, so you go for that. To me, I think that's sufficient. I think if you say you have to find your passion, people find that a little bit confusing. Where would I find it, and what could I be passionate about? I guess you could start with saying, I'm passionate about providing unusual success for myself and for my family, so that my children will say in the years to come, we had the most incredible life together as a family. Then I think the key is to let what you want to accomplish, let that grow. Where at first this is as far as you can see, but if you'll do that, you can say, wow, maybe I could multiply by 2, by 3, and expand my vision, accomplish a lot more. If you have an enterprise, maybe you could make it stronger and better and more far-reaching. Let that happen. It's difficult to figure it all out and then get that done. We just don't do that. We can figure out the next little part of our life that we can see, and then we can say, well, eventually I'd like to have, and let those dreams linger somewhere in your consciousness. I say make a list of all the things that would give you the most incredible life. Just make that list. What would do it for you over the next 10, 20 years? Places to go, things to see, people to meet, books to read, skills to learn, investments to make, being generous. Just make lists of all the things that you think would make for you a really fantastic life. And at first, don't worry about how to get it. Just let your mind run free and think what would really do it for you. And then just begin. And let those lists alter. Because sometimes you start for something and then you say, sure enough, I thought this was really going to be everything I wanted. Sure enough, this is really not it. Or I can see now, long before you are going to accomplish it, I'm investing too much money and time and effort. So you change. And anytime you want, you can tear up your whole list and start all over again. Some people say, I made the list, so I have to accomplish it. And the answer is no, you don't have to do it. It's your life. It's your list. You can turn it upside down, right side up, scratch off some things, put some new things on, or start all over again. Don't let it become an obsession. Let it become an enticement. Better to be enticed than obsessed. Or we might invest too much effort and time in something that's not really going to turn out to be as great as we thought it would. The old prophet said, sometimes things that taste good in the mouth later turns bitter in the belly. We think, oh, this is it. Sure enough, it was a bit of an illusion. Don't cry for me, Argentina, right? One of the lines is, they are illusions. They're not the solutions they promise to be. But that's a learning experience. And we can only be affected by what we see. Someone says, well, you shouldn't have devoted so much of your time and energy. But if that's what you could see, only that at the moment, we're going to do it, and we just learn as we go. We need a collection of experience to give us good data on what to do, what not to do. Sometimes you need more experience to make a wiser decision. If a person says, well, I've eaten junk food now for a week, but look how strong and healthy I am, see, that's a delusion. 1 week is not going to give you the right kind of information about how you feel, whether it's a good idea to continue or not. You need a lot more experience than that to decide whether or not it's good for you. I used this illustration once with the candle lit, talking about having enough experience to make wise decisions. And I said, would all of you agree that the fire will burn my finger? Let's say that I don't know that, but you're trying to teach me now. If you put your finger in the flame, it will burn your finger. I say, okay, I'm ready to try it. So I put my finger in the flame and take it out, fairly quickly, in and out, right in the flame and out. And I say, look, my finger's okay. Let me try it again. And I put my finger in the flame and take it right out. And I say, my finger's okay. Where did you get this idea that the flame would burn my finger? And they say, no, Mr. Rohn, you can't just go like this really quick and put your finger and take it right out of the flame to know that the flame will burn your finger. You've got to leave your finger in there just a little longer. I say, oh yes, then I need a little more experience to make a wise decision. I say, well, I've taken this cocaine and I feel okay. But see, you don't know the end of that road. This is only the beginning when it seems to be okay. But you need more experience. Now, if you don't have any personal experience on cocaine, then you've got to go to someone who has and says, look, 20 years of my life was wasted, and I finally turned it around. Like some of the old rock and rollers that have turned it around. Amazing. I was in Paris the other day, had 20,000 in my class. Also in town were the Rolling Stones, who rolled into Paris and stopped for a while, with Mick Jagger and all the rest. These guys got through those treacherous days of drugs and alcohol and somehow made it.